You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining me on the Newsmaker line is a gentleman I have a great deal of respect for, and a great deal of respect for his book as well. I am speaking, of course, of the WWE Ambassador, Mr. Titus O'Neil. Are you with me, sir?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's such an honor to have you on the show, and I got the book in the mail. ECW Press is always top-notch. They sent me a copy of it. I was reading it over the weekend, and what a great story. I mean, it's such a great book. The book, by the way, is called Wrestling with Fatherhood. I always start these kind of interviews with this kind of question. What made this the right time to put pen to paper and tell that story?
Well, for me, it's coming obviously off the heels of my previous book, There's No Such Thing as a Bad Kid. I explained a lot of things from my upbringing, and one of those things I kind of had a small touch point on was my, lack of having a father growing up. You know, my story is very well documented of me being a child of a victim, my mother being a victim of sexual abuse, being raped at 11 and having me at 12 years old, and me becoming a product of that. And so, obviously growing up in poverty, no male role model, until my, teen years, it really, the loss of my best friend's father, who was actually a drug dealer, and even though he was a drug dealer, he did a lot of great things for a lot of people. And to his son, he was a hero. And I said, at a very young age that I wanted to be a hero to my children. If I was nothing else, if I failed at so many other things, I wouldn't fail at fatherhood. And I just thought at this time, especially with the world being divided on so many different political issues, religious wars, etc., that fatherhood is one of those things that you can't politicize. It doesn't matter what background you come from, or whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, it doesn't matter what background you come from. At the end of the day, I think we all can agree that our family is important. And from a male perspective, and by all means, it's just not a guide to how to be a great dad. It's just honestly to highlight the fact that being a father is the greatest honor that any man could ever have. And, I've lived that firsthand, from going from fatherless to being, to fatherhood, having three children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. My daughter, who I adopted several years back, not all, prospering adults at Division I colleges playing the sport of their dreams. My oldest son plays at UCF football there. My youngest son plays football at the University of Florida, and my daughter plays basketball at Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan. And so, I have a lot of pride points, obviously, at this point in their lives, but my journey with all 3 of them, individually and collectively, I felt like I wanted to share some of that with the world, and then also give some perspectives of different fathers that have different journeys. Mark Henry, talked with Will Packer, a movie producer, a good friend of mine. I spoke with another business partner of mine and great friend of mine, and Bob Grease, of talking about dealing with divorce. And, I went through a divorce, and I would have loved to have a stronger relationship with the mother of my kids, but we had a strong enough relationship that our kids came out pretty well. So, when you take guys like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, for instance, and his, Danny Garcia, his ex-wife is actually his business partner now. So, everybody has their journey of navigating through being a parent, and I just felt like at this point, for me, I wanted to be able to kind of highlight that. I actually did my first ever Father's Day celebration. It was a Superstar Dad celebration where we had several thousand in attendance at the amphitheater in Tampa, Florida. And it was all about celebrating dads, and male mentors. because Mother's Day is often celebrated and Father's Day is often tolerated. You know, you can get a restaurant reservation on Father's Day weekend anywhere at any time, but
That's
you can't
true.
get one during Mother's Day weekend from Thursday all the way through Monday. It's just
Mothers get all the gifts in the world, and we get ties. But there
yes,
you go.
we get ties or a grill, which the grill is really more so for the family as opposed to the dad. Yeah, dad may love cooking, but he also is 9 times out of 10 cooking for other people too. You know, so just trying to give some perspective from a male standpoint. That, you know, fatherhood is important. It's, you know, especially in the evolution of the independent woman and women, a lot of cases, some cases saying, I don't need a man and this and that. Well, it's just like a man saying he doesn't need a woman. We need both. We need both perspectives, the nurturing perspective, the emotional perspective. The growth happens from both sexes. And I feel like it needs to be more of an importance of male mentorship in the home, because there are a lot of fatherless homes, and even some of the fathers that are in the home, they still navigating through that space too. There are fears, there are worries, there are excitement. You know, I remember when I first was told that I was having a child, just the excitement, but it's just like an instant bit of nervousness too, because your life is literally about to change, and it does change it.
Absolutely. I'll never forget when my son was born. It's suddenly everything that you thought was important before is a little less important. That's definitely the case. So I've done these. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm about the whitest white guy you could ever meet. You know, and I'm a lot different than yourself, but I can see that we have a lot in common. And I interviewed Titus, who, very political, but also put out a book. Is it difficult for guys like you, athletic guys like yourselves, who have had interesting growing up, and to pull back the curtain and let people in, knowing that what you're about to tell them could change people's lives and perspectives?
It's not difficult for me because it's been a lifestyle of mine since I was probably 13 years old. I've always had the innate ability to help connect people, and really, I mean, most people that know me all the way since high school. I've been pretty consistent in who I am as an individual. Like, if I don't like something or somebody, I will tell you that, and I stand on it. Like some people, I'm not one to talk behind people's backs or whatever. If somebody says, hey, I heard, you had an issue with me or whatever, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with that person, and it wouldn't have to be confrontational. I just think that people need to learn how to have uncomfortable conversations. And so writing this book and having to go through the process of writing any book and putting it out there, you may be subject to some criticisms, but you can post a beautiful picture of you and your family on Instagram, and somebody might have something negative to say about it. So I can't go throughout life worrying about whether or not there's going to be negative blowback from something that I did or that I said, because I try to live a very transparent life. And I think a lot of people don't live free to be who they truly are, because they're worried about, the backlash and things like that. And I think that my messaging is pretty consistent. I think my messaging is pretty all-encompassing of people's feelings from all walks of life. I'm not a divisive person at all, and I know how to respectfully disagree with some people and it not turn into a shouting match.
And that could be something that could be useful in the world right about now. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's just funny because people ask me my opinion all the time about certain wrestlers and certain situations and this and that, and I always try to take the high road with all of them, majority of them, just simply because that's who I am. But if you ask, me, hey, would you consider, Hulk Hogan to be one of your closest people in the business? I would tell you absolutely not. So I know how to separate the character of people from the character of people. And
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a huge Hogan fan, but I was surprised when you guys hosted WrestleMania together and they announced you and you got cheers. And then he didn't quite get so many cheers. He got a lot more boos.
Yeah.
Was that surprising to you on the stage? And how do you kind of react to that?
It was and it wasn't. It was surprising to me because he is who he is and he's been who he's been as far as a wrestling icon. But we live in a different world now, and when certain things were exposed, it's kind of a chink in his armor, and there was really no, in my opinion, real accountability or remorse for what was said or done. I think people get a bad taste in their mouth, regardless of who you are or what color you are, things like that. If I made some racist comments, and they were vile, and people found out about it, they would not be happy with me either, regardless of how many lives I've changed, regardless of the fact that I've put over 300 kids in college and I've raised millions of dollars for several different organizations. That stuff doesn't matter when you can make a mistake and you can do certain things, but then you also have to be hold yourself accountable for it. And, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the wrestling industry and folks that are within it. But I also look at people as who they are as people. And being able to have that perspective on both sides gives me the opportunity to have a different view point than a person that's just a traditional wrestling fan. This is not about wrestling to me. It's really about being a good human being. And do we all have our negative aspects or our flaws to us? Absolutely, me included. But you will never see me demean a person, or you'll never hear of any stories of me being anything other than a good person. And, I can't say that that's the same conversation for other people.
Very cool. So the book is under your wrestling name, what we all came to know you under, professional wrestling. When you entered this wacky industry after coming from arena football, did you ever expect that this would be the thing that would give you the platform to do the things that you do and make the difference that you're making?
I did not. And people ask me all the time, like, could you see yourself doing this as a kid? And I have been and continue to be a huge WWE fan. But to say that I would be in a ring, traveling the world, doing the things that I've had the opportunity to do and meeting the people and working with the folks that I've had the opportunity to work with, I couldn't have scripted that I could have scripted that if I tried. And honestly, wrestling definitely wasn't in the cards. Coaching was. And, Dave Bautista who was a very close friend of mine. He's a brother to me, kind of was the inspiration of me even taking a look at joining WWE. And that even happened by accident. I was picking up a pair of dress shoes in South Tampa, and I had a taste for some jerk chicken. And there's a place in Tampa called the Jerk Hut, and it's, there's two locations, and one was right around the corner from where I get my shoes resold and stuff like that. And so I was on my way there, and I saw this black and gold building to the right, and I picked up the phone and I said, "Dave, is this the place that you've been trying to get me to check out?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I think I'm going to poke my head in the back door and, kind of see what it's all about." He said, "Yeah, ask for Steve Kern or Dusty Rhodes." And I was like, "The Atomic Elbow, Dusty Rhodes," And he was like, "Yeah, he helps kind of run and build characters with the guys and stuff like that." And so I poked my head in the back door, and the first face I saw were the Usos and Cabal and Norman Smiley in the ring. And Norman looked down at me and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I was, looking to possibly just check out and see what you guys were all about." And, David Batista is a good friend of mine. He told me to try to speak to Steve or Dusty. And, I ended up going and picking up my kids from daycare and bringing them back to the show that night. They had a TV taping, and about 15 minutes headed home, John Laurinaitis gave me a call and said, hey, we want to give you a tryout. Are you in shape? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm in shape. I've never wrestled before, but I work out every day. And, they brought me in for a workout that Friday. I was supposed to work out Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. They worked me out Friday, called me on Friday afternoon, said, hey, we think we're going to sign you. The process is usually about, 6 to 8 months. And I said, well, I don't have 6 to 8 months. I'm either going to do this or I'm going to go coach football. I was getting ready to go to Florida that Monday to talk to them about being an assistant defensive line coach. And I'd always had in my heart that I wanted to coach football. And John said, give me an hour. I'll call you back. And he called me back and he said, well, before we sign with you, we have to take you for a physical. And so they flew me out to Pittsburgh that Tuesday. And I flew up, did my physical, came back the same night, got back late. Wednesday, they put a contract in the mail. Thursday, I got it, overnighted it back. The following Monday, I was in the ring learning how to become a WWE superstar. And that literally happened within a week.
That's an amazing story in and of itself. And going back to the book, I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this for about 22 years. And one of the running stories that a lot of the guys talk about is it's very difficult to be there for your kids when you're on a WWE type schedule. I know that's a part of the theme of the book, but how difficult was it to manage being a WWE superstar as well as being a father?
It was very difficult in the beginning simply because of the schedule and traveling and being home literally like 2 to 2.5 days a week sometimes. And then also being gone for a couple of weeks when we were doing European tours. We'd be gone for like 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks. And so early on it was very tough. But, with technology and FaceTime and, phone calls, it wasn't hard to stay connected. I feel like I had a pretty good base. My kids were 2 and 4 when I started wrestling. And, now they're 20 and 18. There was, but I also took them on the road with me as well.
Very cool.
And that helped out a lot. So being backstage and then you'll see, other guys with their kids, Mark Henry with Jacob and his daughter, you know what I mean? And so it's just like you see Randy Orton with his children and Kofi Kingston with his kids. And, the list kept going on. And it was just great to have that environment, where family being at work was accepted.
Very cool. I mean, everything you did with the primetime players and the great run that you had with the WWE. Unfortunately, the first thing that comes up when you YouTube is unfortunately the greatest Royal Rumble and the slip heard around the world. Does that bother you? Are you at all embarrassed by that, or are you just glad that one of the greatest moments that happened in wrestling history was something silly like that?
Yeah, I'm definitely not embarrassed by it. It is what it is. I tell people all the time, like, you could have woke up this morning and stubbed your toe. Nobody knows about it. You probably fell, doing something in a weight room. Nobody's seen or heard of it. That's the only difference between what I did and what someone else did. And, there's this constant question as to whether it was real or whether it was staged. It was very real. I'm very fortunate that, nothing bad came out of it. If those crossbars were there or there were chairs or tables or something underneath, we would not be having this discussion. If the LED wall which is up now was there, we would not be having this discussion. And so for me, I looked at it as, this is one of many times that I fell down in life and I had to get myself back, pick myself back up. And I think it showed a lot about my character as well, in regards to how I responded and handled it. I think a lot of times people live in shame or regrets or embarrassment, and it hinders them from being able to move forward. I like in my life, I've had to consistently make the best out of nothing, and so in this case, it was taking literally the best out of everything, because when you think about the card that night and the people that were on the card, Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton, Triple H, like the list went on, and that's the most talked about thing from the entire event. It was our first time in Saudi Arabia, and that was the most talked about thing for months and still years in some cases. So I'm not embarrassed by it. It just, again, every moment in wrestling, good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent, is part of storytelling. And depending on who the narrator is, you can tell a great and beautiful story about life and dealing with life and dealing with the bad and the good and turning the negative into the positive. That's what sports entertainment is. It's literally taking life and making a good guy or a bad guy relatable. And I think a lot of people out there in the world could relate to having an embarrassing fall, whether it's at a family reunion or in front of their friends or at a bar with their friends.
I fell off the stage at a grammar school performance, so I totally relate.
Yes, exactly. So, that doesn't make me feel indifferent in any way, shape, or form about the fact that I have the opportunity to associated and work for the largest sports and entertainment company in the world that has put smiles on people's faces for years, decades, and we have a tremendous amount of superstars, both female and male, that are responsible for continuing to put smiles on people's faces and give people a thrill of a lifetime that they can't get in any other form of entertainment. Football won't do it for you. Basketball won't do it for you. There are sports in general, because they have an off season, won't give you that 52-week a year high that WWE gives families and friends and kids for years.
All right. I just have a couple more questions, and of course we'll circle back to the book. I did want to ask you, if there was an equivalent to the Walter Payton Man of the Year award in the WWE, it would be the Warrior Award. And you got given that in 2020. What did getting that recognition from the company mean to you?
It actually meant more to me than being a world champion, because I think that when you get an award based on your real life character and who you are as a human being, that supersedes anything. I tell people all the time, like, I could do so many amazing things for so many other people, but if my kids didn't speak as highly of me as they speak of me, I would consider that being a failure, because home is very important to me. So being able to get the Warrior Award in 2020 at WrestleMania not only highlighted what I've been able to accomplish outside of the ring, but it also validated how important that work is for all the superstars that are on the roster to take a hold of and to gravitate to, and not be afraid that, I remember Sami Zayn calling me several years ago and asking me about him wanting to start his cause with Syria, and asking if I, thought that it would, kind of draw some heat to him from the company by him starting his own thing. And I said, Sammy, I think if anything, the company should look at this as a positive thing that humanizes you as a human being. Like, we're not robots. We're characters on screen, but we're real life people, and we have tried to tell people that stuff all the time, even to the point where we tell people don't try what we do at home, but people still try it. I think that anytime you take the opportunity to enhance the lives of others, you're making the world a better place. So don't worry about the backlash from whether it's the company or anyone else. If you stand and believe on your morals and your convictions about why you're doing this, and it's truly from the heart, then do it. And Sammy's just one of several different people that are on the WWE roster that have reached out to me about that type of work and wanting to get more involved and wanting to be more engaged. And I actually looked at that as a feather in my cap too. You know, the fact that I could be entertaining, whether it's with the primetime players or Heath Slater or whoever. But the fact that these folks also recognize me as a great human being, and then to be dubbed the most philanthropic superstar in the history of the company, you know, that to me, you know, still humbles me so much, because when you think about John Cena and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and so many people, Randy Orton, I mean, just Roman Reigns, we have so many men and women that have done amazing work in helping put smiles on people's faces. To be, I guess, in the Mount Rushmore of that definitely is humbling, but also a true honor.
Very cool. And I kept you a little longer than I said I would. I do apologize for that. I guess my final.
Good, bro. We're good. We're good. You're good.
All right. I guess my final question would be: what do you hope that a wrestling fan like myself, who has a very different background to yours, might take away from reading this new book that's out there now, the Wrestling with Fatherhood?
Yeah, I just hope that the typical man in general, whether they're a wrestling fan, a sports fan, or whatever, just take away, number one, that, you know, while it may be hard or difficult, it is truly the greatest honor and greatest joy in your life to be a father. Secondly, you are not alone in the thoughts, the worries, the fears, the disruptions, the in some cases disrespect, you know what I mean? A feeling, you know, essentially like you're just a ATM or you're just a provider. You're more than a provider, you're a protector. And I think the most important thing that I hope that people draw from this is that men just need to be present. You don't have to be the wealthiest. You don't have to be the strongest, biggest. You don't have to have millions of followers on social media. You can be a hero to your son or your daughter just by being a good human being and also being present.
All right, man. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this with me. The book is out there now through ECW Press. I can't compliment those guys enough. They always do a great job. And I can't wait for more people to read it. And hopefully this helps people find it as well.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
You too. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. And I will tag you on Twitter when I get this posted up there.
Perfect. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, for Rush.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
Yo, Maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Maniac runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Arriba la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey, guys. We had a lovely conversation. First lady. Absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky. Hi.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Oh, my God. You win. Wow. Being interactive.
Wow. Listen. I was not shooting. Yeah, I almost missed my fan. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. But here, let's go. Excuse my language. You're going to go to the shop. Into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's going to be cool. Woo! What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Rock and roll. Arrogant.
You're listening to me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
You're so lonely without you.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates chaos. Professional wrestling.
Made in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire. I'm not
We were sexy.
What a show.
The one and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Interactive interview. We took care of the business. This isn't ballet. We are huge with this whole. You're where it's at. You better recognize who's the best. Make sure to tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer. Knock down your door and turn it on for you. Or else I'm going to kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line.
Have a nice day.
It's showtime!
Don't forget to like and subscribe.